4, we have the astronomy, geology, meteorology, and we have the last one, oceanography. And it is very challenging because why? Our planet is a dynamic body, meaning it is ever changing and it has many interacting parts and a complex history just like our own universe. And we should understand and appreciate everything. Everything ha? Tanan. From the objects, from the materials, sa tanan yung nakita karon and especially with the processes. Because without these processes, ang mahitabo sa Earth is stagnant lang. Static lang. Walay kausaban. Okay? So, let's move on to the first study. Okay? So, same as with your comments. So, those are the collective terms that resembles the geology subject. So, geology, mainly the study of the Earth itself. It is divided into two broad areas, physical and historical. If we try to differentiate these two, so physical, it's nature. Historical, syempre, from the word itself, it's history. So physical geology, what does it examine? Examines the materials that composes our planet. Okay? Why do we need to study this physical geology? Because we need to seek so that we can understand the external, the outside processes, and the internal processes that operates beneath and above the surface of the earth. Okay, who can give me an example of an external processes? External earth process. Sige, outside of the earth. What processes can we think of? Anyone? External processes sa atong palibot. Unsa yung nakita? Anyone? Abby.
Sir, di ko sure, sir, pero weathering.
Very good. Weathering is a great example of an uh, external force that governs our Earth above the surface, siyempre. How about an internal one? Sige. Andrebon,
I guess earthquake, sir.
earthquakes, very good. Any other? Aside from earthquakes,
Eruptions.
eruptions. Okay? The rock cycle itself, di ba? So, all of these things can be studied with the physical geology aspect. Historical geology is to understand the origin of the earth. Diba? Same as with our universe, we have our cosmology. This historical geology studies the development of the planet all throughout, diba? As you can remember from your junior high times, diba? The earth comes from a what? The creation of the solar system, and it has its own creation. Okay? From the very moment nga naa siya, it was very chaotic until such nga nag-stabilize siya. Until such species of organisms have evolved all throughout, and look what we are now. There are so many animals, 'di ba? From the biology itself, katong tree, species tree, 'di ba? So makita ninyo nga we are inside a diverse environment on our own planet. Okay? So, let's move to the second one, meteorology. This one is the study of the atmosphere, okay? And all of the processes that produces weather and climate. Now, who can define me the difference between weather and climate? Okay, recall lang, simple recall. Weather versus climate. What's the difference between the two? Anyone? Muhammad.
Ang weather, sir, kay short-term nga kwan, sir. Short-term nga atmospheric condition din. Ang climate kay long-term changes sa atmosphere, sir.
Very good. So, that is the difference between the two. Okay? Simple recall lang ta. So, weather is the daily change. So, makita ninyo, di ba? Sunny, rainy, usahay mo ulan, usahay mo init, usahay mo dagom, usahay mo cloudy siya. Climate, on the other hand, resembles a larger area and a longer time period. So we have different kinds of climate. Sige daw, give me two types of climate. Anyone? Benhard.
Winter and summer.
Okay. Winter, summer, fall, and spring. It talks about the seasons, Benhard.
I
Sige.
see.
I will give you a chance. Go. How about the Philippines? What climate is our
El
Philippines?
Nino? El Nino or
El
monsoon?
Nino is a monsoon. Sige.
Tropical, sir.
Okay. Chris said tropical
Uh,
rainforest or tropical. Sige, Benhard. How about the Antarctic? What climate is that? Sige. Or in the in deserts. What is that?
Hot, sir.
Okay? Hot and dry. Di ba? Remember ha, we have the savanna, tundra, the Arctic. Isa pa to? Uh,
Highland.
high,
Highland.
savanna
Humid
land, highland,
continental.
humid.
Humid
Okay?
tropic.
Remember those climate. Okay? And that climate classification is given by the Köppen climate classification. So I hope nakadumdum pa mo ana. Okay? So next, we have meteorology. We have also oceanography that talks about our own ocean.
Ocean.
Okay? It involves all of the application. So tanan application nga pwede nato ma-study sa atong ocean. That is because nga no, because our Earth's ocean has been discovered only the 5% of it. And the remaining of it is still unknown for us. Especially with on our trenches, di ba? You haven't have discovered everything. Daghan pa kay species nga pwede na to makuha basin din ay mermaids. Di ba? Basin di ay naday nga ni nga kuan type of fish. And napadyoy in the very deep oceans nato, there are certain kinds of species nga makita nato nga lain na kay mga itsura nga mura nag monster. Okay, nga dagas na kayo ang kaning mga alaang teeth nila so that they can survive. Na sila ay something like nga night vision goggles nga mata para makakita sila sa sa kangit-ngit. So ingana, that is oceanography. Next, the last one is we have astronomy as we discussed yesterday, the study of the own universe. So it is useful to probe the origins because of cosmology and useful to learn something about the other members as well. Okay, why do we need to study? Especially, for example, we have our moon. Why do we need to study our moon? Diba? Why do we need to study Mars? Diba? Because we humans tend to know that, diba, our own Earth is depleting. The resources of which is depleting. So, we tend to know nga, what if pwede data nga mo transfer? We will colonize ourselves outside. Okay? We will colonize outside sa moon. Magpuyo ta sa Mars. Or mangita tag something like an Earth-like planet away from the Milky Way galaxy, this and that. Okay? That is some of the possibilities. That is why we need to study this earth science subject, especially with if you go into the science realm, right? Sige. So earth science, how do we connect it with people and environment? It is because every day we experience these natural hazards. Okay? This is a part and this is a living phenomenon, a living event of our planet. Diba? We experience typhoons. We experience earthquakes. We experience the pandemic today. Okay? That is a real phenomena. And among these hazardous earth processes, diba? We have floods, tsunami, landslides, nga makita nato every now and then sa news in other countries and here also in the Philippines because we are located in the Pacific. So, syempre, we are the barrier. Kita ang gauna, kita ang gasagang sa other countries padulong sa Asia. Okay? Kita ang shield, actually. The Philippines is actually a shield to most countries nga makita na to sa map. Okay? Next, if we experience natural hazard, we have also the resources that we are using from the very start. Then, why is this very important to us? Di ba? Praktikalan. We need it to survive. If wala resources, what will happen to us? Di ba? Gutmon maganitag pila pa pila ra ka oras walay kaon. How much more if these resources will be depleted eventually? Okay? And there are two types of resources. We have the non-renewable resource and we have the renewable resources. So I hope nakadumdum pa mo ana. Right? Sige. The last one. This is a very important one. Population growth. Okay. Now tell me, statistically, what is the population of our Earth? Sige daw, Google daw ninyo. Pila ang population sa Earth karon?
7 billion, sir.
7?
7.674 billion, sir.
Okay. Imagine that number. And it is continuously increasing exponentially. Every second, we have, I think, 5 to 10 babies nga maborn. Okay? Mas taas ang not growth rate, ang birth rate compared sa death rate. Alright? So, what if, kung magpadayon ni siya, pa man ang uban. Pa man ang uban mamuyo. 'Di ba? So, we need to sustain this so that we can still live or napagyapoy future. Ang ato ang inyong mga anak pohon. We need to see that. Okay? We need to make a change for our very own selves so that the future will still be a future. Alright? Sige. So, with this natural hazards, resources, and population growth, we need to study this because our Earth is interconnected. Interconnected in such ways nga makita nato nga each of these spheres can be affected with another sphere. Like for example, di ba? Kung imo akong nagdula kag Julin, kung imong ibangga ang Julin, di ba? Mo interact sila, mubanda sila. Or kung imong ilabay ang something sa isa ka wall, di ba? Mubalik sa imo . So ingana na siya. For example, our own atmosphere. What if mag-ulan? Could it affect everything nga nasa land? Di ba? It will affect it. Kung init, everything nga pwede niya magian maapektuhan. So that is why the Earth is very systematic. So na siya natural way to govern its own things. Okay? Na siya own aspect, na siya own discretion kung saan na niya. And we don't know, we cannot predict that. Right? But we can prevent it. And that will be your activity later. Sige, dayon. Earth spheres. We have the 4 spheres. The atmosphere above, the hydrosphere in the waters, the lithosphere on our land, and the biosphere is us. All of the living things. Okay? So, these 4 spheres, again, hydrosphere, the water portion, atmosphere, the gaseous portion. Geosphere, we have the solid component na atong gitumban karon. Biosphere, all of the living components. And each of these 4 spheres is connected from each other. Dili siya pwede nga mag-iyahay sila. Okay? Same as with your groupings, di ba? If one won't work, what will be your output? In a business, if a member of, if your head doesn't work and he will give all of the work to you, what will happen? Diba? Mo burn out ka and your productivity will become lower. So, ingana na siya. So, dapat balance. Dapat naay cooperation. Dapat naay something nga bond, nga mo connect each and every one of us nga dili sa dali-dali mabungkag. We should have a foundation with the things around us. Right? Sige. Geosphere. Just a simple recall. Geosphere is the solid inorganic, including the surface and the interiors. Okay. Now, who can give me the interiors of the Earth from inside to outside? Okay. Aside from Abby and Adribon, Matthew,
The core, mantle, and crust, sir.
core, mantle, and crust. Those are the major internal parts of the Earth. Okay? So, let's try to recall it. Naman stuff by Fong dire. Alright. So, we have the core that comprises of the two, the inner and outer. Which of the following is solid? Which of the following is a liquid one?
Outer core, sir.
Kung sa outer core, liquid.
Solid, sir. Then ang inner, sir, kay liquid.
Okay. Sige daw. Ang uban daw. I-sure ninyo. Muhammad?
Ang outer core, sir, ang liquid, and ang inner core ang solid.
Okay. So, ayaw ni interchange siya. Inner solid, outer liquid. Inner solid, outer liquid. Above that, above the outer core, we have the mantle that comprises of the lower mantle and the upper mantle. All right? Above the upper mantle, we have the crust and comprises of two types of crust. What are those two? Sige, anyone? Sige, Abby.
Continental and oceanic crust, sir.
Okay. The continental and oceanic crust. And these two is part of what we call the lithosphere. Okay? If we differentiate the lithosphere and geosphere, it is very different. The geosphere talks about the general structure of the land, Earth's land, from inside to outside. Lithosphere is the part on which we can see the oceanic crust and the continental crust. Also, it involves all of the other atmospheres. Okay? So, in between of this, we have what we call the Mohorovici discontinuity. Okay? In between of the crust and the mantle. In between the core and the mantle, we have what we call the Gutenberg discontinuity. So, these are the parts of the internal parts of our Earth. Okay? Simple recall lang ta. You don't need to go over to the advanced level na. Okay? So, just never mind this one. Just stick to the basics. Okay? So, core, direta. Roles of the geosphere. Sige daw. How is it that we can benefit with this geosphere? Why is it so important for us humans? Anyone? Ano importante man sa geosphere, guys? Kala na nabag. Danny.
Sir, geosphere is important because it controls the distribution of rock, minerals, and soils.
Correct. Distribution of rock, minerals, and soils. Any other? And I ni.
It provides natural resources, sir.
Correct. It provides us natural resources. One last. Nicole.
Control the difficult hazards of nature, sir.
Correct. It can control the hazards. Kyapon. Okay? So, plainly speaking, this geosphere, kung wala ni siya, makatindog bata karon. Diba? Common sense. Right? Kani si geosphere, makatanom bata.
Yes, sir, makatanom.
Makatanom. Makatanom ta in a way nga, unsa man, if we can adapt in the first place. Okay? Adaptation. Evolution gyapon. Okay? Sige. Let's move to the next sphere. Hydrosphere. Hydrosphere is the part that is liquid water. All of the water that is that can be observed is part of this sphere. and it is constantly moving. And it's because of our own water cycle. Sige, can someone give us a brief discussion about the water cycle? Unsay nahitabo sa water cycle? What are the processes that involves on it? Sige, anyone? Simple recall lang. Elementary na eh. Chris.
Evaporation, sir.
Okay, evaporation. After
Tapos,
sige, sige.
Condensation.
condensation, sir.
Okay, afterwards, last one.
Precipitation.
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 All right. So remember ha, the water on our oceans will get evaporated to form water vapor. And this water vapor will be condensed to form clouds. And these clouds, if mapuno na, if dili na kaya, precipitation will occur. And this precipitation will happen mostly everywhere. And if and only if mahitabo siya sa land, the water that comes from the clouds or the precipitate itself will go down to our lands, forming our own water bodies. The rivers, creeks, lakes, everything ato makita diri sa land area nato. Then after which, padulong ang mga tubig gikan sa yuta mo, always siya mo go at sa sea. So, gatuyok na siya. And remember, kung unsa ang tubig sa una, kung unsa ang volume sa tubig sa una, it will be the same in the present. Dili siya pwede mo taas, dili siya pwede mo baba. Alright? Remember that. Okay, sige. Let's move to the next sphere. Okay, kani. Roles of the hydrosphere. How is it that this hydrosphere is very important to us? Anyone? April. Sige, April.
It gives us water, sir.
It gives us water. Isa pa, Danny.
The major significance of it, sir, it sustains us various life forms.
Sustain various life forms. Klexi.
It regulates the atmosphere.
Regulates the atmosphere. Okay? So, importante si tubig. And remember that water is life. Okay? Without water, we cannot survive. Every organism that is living on our planet cannot survive. Okay? Sige. Let's move on. We have the atmosphere. Okay? The atmosphere is the part on which we can see the mixture of invisible gases that surrounds our planet. It envelops the outside part of our Earth. Okay? So, composition of the Earth's atmosphere, syempre, the bigger part is nitrogen. Next is oxygen. The third one is argon. And the smaller ones are the other components. So remember ha, nitrogen, next, oxygen, next is argon. Okay. Sometimes, if ever maging na mga entrance exam, usually ka na ang ipangutana. Which is the largest, which is the third largest component of the atmosphere. Yan na siya. Okay? So, the parts of the atmosphere. So, sir, unsa ang mga parts sa atmosphere? Starting from the bottom. Okay, we have the troposphere. From the word tropo, meaning tropics, di ba? It is the one on which na makita nga na ay mga weather changes. Okay? Above that, we have the stratosphere. From the word strata or layer. It is a layer of the atmosphere nga makita nato nga naa siya component which is what we call the ozone layer that can help us protect from the ultraviolet rays. After which we have the mesosphere. Meso meaning middle. Okay? Meso meaning middle. Pasabot ana, that is the part on which, that is the zone that has diffused atmospheric components. Ganong na-diffuse man siya? Siyempre, hapit naman siya sa outside. Okay? Gamay na lang kulang. Outer space na. Above that is we have the thermosphere. Sige. From the word thermo. Anong thermosphere man tawag niya, guys? Sige, anyone? Matthew.
Heat, sir. It protects us from the heat from the sun, like ang ultraviolet rays. Yan, sir.
Okay. It protects heat. Diba? Heat nga naman. Thermo, heat. Mainly speaking, that is the outside part of the planet. Okay? So, bali, init dra nga part. And above that is the exosphere or the outside sphere. And it doesn't mean nga si exosphere part na sa Earth, but it is also part of the outer space na. Okay? Wala siya exact definition kung dapit or unsa ang distance na exosphere. Sige. Now, let's talk about its roles. How is the atmosphere very important? Cyril,
It makes the earth livable, sir.
it makes the Earth livable. City Raifa,
It blocks some of the sun's dangerous rays from Earth.
very good. So, simple lang ta. Okay? Atmosphere protects us. Atmosphere gives us life. Okay? So, bali, that is our shield. Kung sa isa pa na siya kaning movie, siya ang superhero. Siya ang ga-protect ni Earth. Alright? Sige. Last one is the biosphere. This is the life zone of the Earth. And it includes all of the living organisms. Okay? And this one distinguishes us from the other planets because we are the only ones that we know that has living organisms. Okay? Ngano mo ingon makog the only living thing that we know because we don't know yet if there is a possibility that there are other living planets outside our galaxy, outside in the cosmos. Alright? Sige. So, biosphere, this one will be tackling on the second half. Everything. This is the life science that I'm talking about in the orientation. Sige. Roles of the biosphere. Why is it very important? Nangita ko lain. Okay, Nicole.
It sustain sir. Mag-sustain siya ang support of life of an organism, sir.
Okay, sustain and support of life of an organism. Nga naman. That is because, di ba? We perpetuate. Di ba? Always ta nga ga-perpetuate. Kaya nga no, we need that to survive. Our own species to survive of any outcome. How? Sige, next. Cyril. What's your idea?
One, sir, it plays a central role in regulating global carbon cycle.
Okay, regulating. Especially as humans, di ba? We are using the natural resources in the first place. Okay? We have overgrown population. And how do we deal with that? Okay? Kana ang ihatag na ko nga question ninyo. Sige. Sige. All of these spheres, the four spheres, interacts within one another. Because the Earth, our planet, acts as a one system. And what do I mean by that? Okay? I mean that every living thing interacts with any non-living thing. And every non-living thing, we are using those so that we can live. Okay? Give and take. So, in biology pa, diba? Ito ko itong commensalism. Sa pa itong mga ism-ism. Right? So, Earth as a system. Like for example, I have this plant here. If you have a tita that is a plantita, or if you have a tito that is a plantito, syempre, mutubo jud kag snake plant. Snake plant, may tawag na guys? I don't know. Snake plant, mantika na. Okay. And this snake plant must have sunlight, must have land, must have water, and must have air. If one of which atong tangtangon, dili na siya mabuhi. Okay? Imagine, one part of the sphere, if we remove it, chaos will come. And Earth will not become Earth anymore. Okay? Sige. So, let's try to look it. So, never mind the question, ha? The Earth works like a clockwork. kanang clock bitaw ninyo, kung kisay nakabre og clock, makita niyo na siya gears. Imagine, if natay tangtangon nga, small lang jud kaayo, wonder pa ba ang imong clock, yes or no?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
No.
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
Dili na siya ma-work. So, like for example, in this image, these are the processes that involves on our Earth. We have crustal movements, landscape evolution, weathering, erosion, rock cycle, hydrologic cycle, plate tectonics, heating, melting, everything. And one of which atong tangtangon, dili na mag-move ang uban. Ingana ka vital, ingana ka critical. Okay? Sige. Earth as a system involves matter, energy, and processes. So everything. And all of this interacts. Say for example, if we have earthquakes, volcanic eruption, typhoons, every camp, tanan ang madamay. So let's look at these examples. Volcanoes. It comes from the geosphere. But it affects the atmosphere because of the gases nga gi-emit niya. It affects the biosphere, syempre. Imagine, katong taal. Tama? Mag-evacuate na magaling mga tao. 'Di ba? For safety purposes. 'Di ba? Earthquakes, still in the geosphere. And how can it affect everybody? From the biosphere, 'di ba? Bungkag mga balay. Okay? How can it affect the atmosphere? Siyempre, pagbabungkag ang balay, yung sa mahitabo, dust will happen. Dust will be created. Okay? So, ingana na siya. How about the water? Kung sa mahitabo sa earthquake, like for example, nakay, buta na to, ang area nimo kay na ay landfill. Kung sa landfill, guys, sige, sinwa mo kabalo sa word nga landfill, ha? Kung sa landfill,
Full of garbages, sir.
full of garbages, because that is the part or the term itself resembles the area on which we not throw. We dispose of our trash and garbages. So dira na to na siya gisettle para mustay lang siya di ara. Kay wala man tay man nato ibutang di ay. So mangita tag place nga pwede kabutangan. And that is the purpose of landfills. So imagine if may earthquake, taas kayo tapos naay may mong balay kay nasa ubos. Then itapan nga dito nga area nga nay nag-crack. So tanan ng garbage nimo syempre moabot sa inyo. So maapektuhan ka. Okay? So mubaho na pud ang area. Okay, 'di ba? Connected. One small mistake, and not mistake. One small event, domino effect. Ingana ka abdrap. Alright? Another example. Biosphere. Okay, biosphere, typhoons. It will affect everybody. Siyempre, ulan, kusog hangin, baha, hydrosphere, 'di ba? Mag-flood, magkuan pa, mutaas pa. Ito tawag ana. Tidal, nakalimutan na ko. Tidal surge. Okay? Mutaas ang tubig kalit sa dagat. Geosphere, how will affect it? Siyempre, floodings. Landslides will happen. Biosphere, of course. Every living thing can be affected. Makita gaya ninyo, for me, I have experienced it. Typhoon Sendong. Makita nimo na loy kay mga animals, magipang biyaan lang, gipang pasagdan. Makita nimo galuto-lutaw na. How much more kung makakita kag person ato nga time. Okay? So ingana ka drastic if ever natay natural phenomena na mahitabo. So, at each and every sphere that we need to understand is very vital and very critical for us to know these processes so that we can learn. Learn what? Learn to sustain it, learn to prevent these things from happening, etc., etc. Okay? So I hope that you have learned something because I want you to realize that there is a must that we need to make a change. We need to make a change concerning of our Earth. Okay? But for now, let's try to dig deeper in your own perspective as ABM students. So that is why gihatag na nako daan ang katong activity karon ninyo. So I hope that you will discuss these things. So this is the further information. So please listen ha para di ta magbalik-balik. Aman to. So I have told you already yesterday that you need to choose two environmental issue. In the past 5 years in the Philippines that had various impacts on business and the economy sector. Now, you guys will tend to be the CEO of a company. Okay? Then, as a CEO or heads of a company, what are the things that you will do in order to sustain your business despite of these natural events? Diba? Remember, connected tanan. As a business owner, as a CEO, as business heads, what will you do? Okay? So, that will be your group activity today. So, I hope discussions lang ta. Please cooperate para mahuman mo dayon. So, brainstorm na mo guys. What will you do as a CEO? What are the things nga imong i-prevent? Unsa imong nga precautionary measures after nga nanay nahitabo sa imo? Imagine nga katong duha ninyo nga gipili is naapektuhan mo. How will you make it nga mo saka mo balik? Okay? Am I understood? So, that is your activity. Please, just submit it sa yung final nga paper. I-submit lang sa inyo ang group channel ninyo. Kaya dito rin ako to i-check. No need to submit it sa Google Classroom. Don't worry. Sa Discord lang ta. Okay? So, any more questions and clarifications for the activity? Before you go with your groupings sa Discord. Wala? Sige. So, go with your groups and discuss, and you can eat while discussing. I know some of you wala pa ikaon pod. Okay? So, just notify me sa Discord if na may questions. Just mention me. And I'll naraman po ko dire. Alright? So, if wala na, go with your groups and see you on Monday. That will be your first weekly assessment. Okay? Just be ready. Multiple choice pa rin. Aini, question?
Sir, katong kuan, sir, katong giansiran sa Padlet, sir, unsa man ako wala ko di ko sulod gyud.
Sa Google Chat lang Aini. I-chat lang.
Okay,
Kaya,
sir. Thank
kaya
you, sir.
ako rang i-paste dito. Okay?
Sige, sir. Thank you.
All right. So, any other question? Sige, larga. Go with your groups na and see you on Tuesday's discussion. Monday, don't forget that is your weekly assessment. And I will upload the materials later on. Okay? Goodbye, everybody, and ciao.
Thank you, sir.
Bye,
Goodbye,
sir.
sir.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Sir.
Hi, sir.
Thank you, sir.